Hi, I'm Mary Marinville, Ag Education Coordinator in Ventura County, and welcome to my Ventura County Sustainable Farmer of the Month. I'm here in agricultural heartland in Ventura County in Camarillo, California, and I'm here with Casey Houwelings, the president of Houweling's Nurseries. Hi, Casey. How are you today?
Hi, great.
Great. I know that you have a long family history with agriculture. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of Howling's Nursery and your family connections?
Sure. Well, it goes way back to Holland, where when my dad grew up over there, and he actually was from a non-farming family, but he had it in his blood, and he worked. He got an education there, and he worked in a research station. But after the Second World War, they moved to Canada, and I ended up in Vancouver, and that's the family I was born in. I'm actually Canadian, so he started there in floral operations, and basically, to put a long story short, it evolved to a point where I was ended up growing vegetables, primarily tomatoes, and then it just grew from there to where it is today. My father has long since passed away, and the company no longer does floral. So we've concentrated on growing tomatoes, and basically that's what we do, and that's what we do best.
Great. So you were from Holland. Did you grow tulips?
I wasn't from Holland, actually. I was born in Canada. My dad was, but he was born in Rotterdam, and his dad actually had a transport company. So he does not actually have agricultural roots. So he moved into agriculture, and that's I guess that's how it all started. Not sometimes you do get the rarity where a city person actually goes into ag.
Oh, great, great. I grew up on a working farm in upstate New York, and I have so many fond memories associated with agriculture, like running through the cornfields. As a child, do you have any memories going into your dad's business and with agriculture?
Well, it starts out at the very bottom end of things that sometimes you remember things for reasons I don't know why. I still remember as being a very a little kid where we were working in the vegetable garden, and I was with my dad, and I remember this clear as day today. Is this a weed or is this a carrot? Is this a weed or is this a carrot? And I had it figured out pretty quickly after that, and I guess maybe that's where the seeds got sown, and just seeing it in the little vegetable garden. And today, obviously, it's a whole lot different than it was then. There's been a lot of evolution within the business, and a lot of more technology and everything else. But essentially, it's still that growing something that's in your blood, and that's what separates a good farmer from a bad farmer. It's got to be in your blood.
Exactly, and I know that, and that's why I wanted to ask the question, because to go from that to being what you have, where you are today, it must be a deep, deep passion. And I just wanted to know if that was there from when you were a child, and obviously it was. All right, thank you. And now we're going to move from the agricultural field into a Howling's greenhouse. Hi, now I'm with Casey inside one of his amazing hot houses, and I'll never forget the first time I got a tour at Howling's Nurseries. I was in awe and just in amazement of this operation. And the tomatoes are about 30 feet high. And before I ask Casey my next question, I just wanted him to explain why we have to wear these white suits.
All right, the part of it's hygiene. You look at a facility like this, we do everything we can to prevent bugs from getting in, to prevent these diseases, so we don't have to use pesticides or fungicides or any of those other kind of things. So first of all is a prevention measure, and because this is an agricultural area and there's no winter kill, so you have a lot of pest pressures here. The further south you go, the more pest pressures you get. I often compare it to just a bug is bad, but a bug that carries a virus is much worse. Like a mosquito bites one thing, but a mosquito that carries malaria is a whole other difference. And in ag, you have tons of viruses that are vectored and carried by bugs. and other diseases. We don't want them in this greenhouse. To give you an example, if we get a disease in here and it affects the crop, we have to pull the complete crop out and replant it. And in this 20-acre facility, that's a $2 million bill. So there's a lot of incentive here to keep it out. There's also a lot of incentive in our operation to minimize the amounts of pesticides or any other chemicals that none of us really want to use. Ultimately our goal is to not have it at all. And that's what we work awfully hard on. So that's why you have to take some of these preventive measures to try and make sure that whatever is a potential way of getting any diseases in has been taken care of and mitigated.
And if nothing else, it's a good conversation piece. I'm looking around and all I can see is tomatoes that way and tomatoes that way, and it's just amazing. How many acres in Ventura County do you have under glass?
Well, this right here, we have 125 acres of greenhouses that grow tomatoes in a facility like this. Up in Canada, we have another 50 acres. So this is by far our largest single operation here.
125 acres under glass. And what do you grow? What crops do you grow?
Well, we grow almost every tomato you can think of. We start at grapes, and then we go to a cocktail, which is a little bigger fruit. And then we have a strawberry tomato, which tastes really, it's a very sweet tomato, probably one of our best tasting tomatoes. And then we move up to Roma, to regular tomatoes on the vine, which is where we're in right now. This is tomatoes on the vine. You'll find these in local supermarkets, probably the main staple of the greenhouse industry. And then we finish off with a beef tomato, which is a bigger tomato that people will use for hamburgers or whatever else. So basically, if there's a type of tomato, we grow it, including yellow and orange.
Do you grow cucumbers as well?
We have a few cucumbers here also because some of our customers have requested that we do that. So, but primarily our basis really is tomatoes. We really are tomato specialists, and that's what we pride ourselves in doing best.
Well, I know that I became a believer. I wasn't sold on greenhouse tomatoes at first, and when I came here the first time on my tour, I was given a tomato, and it was probably one of the best tomatoes I've ever tasted, and I'm not just saying that, and I was thoroughly impressed. And can you tell us about hydroponic growing and the quality of your tomatoes?
Well, basically, when you think of the way we grow, we minimized any of the outside exposures that you can have when you grow outside. So no rain, no dust, no wind, and the bugs and everything else that I already talked a little bit about. So what this is about consistency, trying to get the best possible climate you can and creating a nirvana for a plant so that they can do everything they do best. Anytime there's stress on a plant, it slows the growth and it affects the quality and everything else. So we have perfected it. There's gone a lot of research into doing what we're doing, and from all the way from controlling humidity to CO2 to temperatures and how you grow countercyclicals, because it's not natural to grow a tomato 12 months out of the year and be in production all the time. In spite of the fact it might be on the store shelves, you cannot grow tomato outside through the wintertime, even here in Ventura County. So this gives you the opportunity to actually grow the food closer to where the consumer is. And it also gives you the ability to be non-seasonal and have consistent quality product.
I love going into my local producer, my local farmer's market in the wintertime and getting fresh tomatoes. So we do appreciate you growing them all year. And earlier when you were talking about quality, you were talking about locally grown agriculture and produce and how important that is, and in relation to quality. Could you talk to us about the locally grown?
Well, local is a big issue for any food, because we're not producing wine. Wine gets better with age. Produce doesn't get better with age. So the best tomato you can get is one that's fresh off the vine, that's ripened on the vine. But because we have to go through chain management and you have cooling and everything else, every day that tomato doesn't get eaten, it tastes a little less. So it's important from a handling perspective, never put a tomato in the fridge, because when a tomato goes below 55 degrees, it loses flavor. So that, and that depends all the way through the chain. But we need to produce a tomato that has 2 weeks of shelf life. So there's those other kind of barriers that you have to have too to be able to get it to the consumer, so it's still good and quality tomato at the consumer stage. Our job really isn't done until the consumer gets it and eats it.
Right, right. And they are delicious. Right now in agriculture, the word sustainable and sustainability gets thrown around a lot. And I know through educating myself that Houweling's doesn't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. And what practices do you follow as far as sustainability in agriculture?
Well, we've done a number of myriad things, and it's a passion of our company also. What can we do and leave as small a footprint on the environment, and not only do it because it makes sense, but do it because we want to leave a world behind for our kids. And so we've really it's just ingrained into our culture. So wherever we can, we minimize the amount of energy used. We have solar panels here to generate electricity. We research all our water. We treat our there's no waste ag runoff. We collect the rain off the roof for irrigation purposes, so we minimize the water use. We minimize the amount of land we use. This, for example, this is on 160 acres of land. Produces the equivalent of about 7,000 acres of field tomatoes.
That is amazing.
From farm gate value. So that means that you're leaving a lot of land over for other purposes. And whether that's anywhere from recreational to growing different crops to cotton or whatever else it is this is just a great use of land, and it minimizes our imports because it's year round. So it's a job creator for the community. It's so it has economic benefits certainly to be close by, and the closer you are, the less pressure that's on the environment from transportation needs and the diesel fuel used to truck stuff across. Produce is transported long distances, and our goal really is to minimize it. Why should people in Los Angeles be eating a tomato in winter that comes all the way from southern Mexico?
We shouldn't be.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So, but in order to do that, that means you have to produce it those times of the year. So we try and cover up a lot of the things we do, and we're very proud of what we do.
You should be. And back to the land use issue. So in hydroponic, you're not growing horizontally, so to speak. You're growing vertically. And can you explain what we're seeing right here? Could you explain how hydroponic works?
Well, basically, a plant needs nutrients to grow. And these nutrients are fertilizers. So the plant gets everything it needs, all the way from boron to molybdenum to iron to nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, just to name a few. A plant can't live without those. It's in a lot of ways it's similar to a human being, where you need the vitamins. So we feed the plant those fertilizers, what we would call fertilizer. And it goes in, and we feed it to them as they use it. We have a computerized system that measures the amount of light and the transpiration and everything else.
And you're feeding them through these tubes right here?
Yes. So this is basically the nutrient tube, where it's not on right now, but whenever the computer says a plant needs more water or more nutrients, on it goes, and it gives every plant a very consistent same amount. So this is right here. This is actually a rock-wool block, and it just looks like it's just a base. It's made out of basalt rock, and that's to hold the nutrients in it for where we start these plants up in our Canadian facility. They're all grafted. Every plant is grafted. You can see the ring right here still. And this is basically the plant. We ship it up from Canada, and it comes up on here, and this is where the roots grow, and this is where it takes the nutrients out of the water, and it transports it up to the stem, brings it up to the leaves. And there it goes through the process of photosynthesis and change it into sugars, and then the sugars get used to grow the tomatoes actually. So the starches, and gets transferred into what you'd see tomatoes, leaves, or whatever else it is.
Oh, it's so beautiful, and it looks very science fictionist almost when you really get up close and see just the small amount of area that it takes to grow these beautiful plants. In closing, I know that ag education is very important to you. What do you want to pass on to the kids in Ventura County into the next generation?
Well, I think the very first thing to do is when you eat something, think about what it is. And consider that it's nutrients for your body. That's what you live off of. You can take vitamins and all this other stuff, but it's never a replacement for the real thing. So you think about the quality of the product you're putting into your body and what you're growing from and how healthy you want to be, and then you also want to think about, well, where does this come from? Does it come from close? They had to ship it halfway across the world, and what's kind of footprint is it leaving behind for when you grow up and when you're out there. So it's food we don't think about near enough. We want our kids to start thinking about food and to start thinking about what they're putting into their bodies, because the healthcare costs and everything else that we all got to worry about, it's very important. It starts young. The habits are built when you're a kid.
Right. And farming isn't exactly what it used to be. As you can see from Houweling's, it's a highly technical, science-based industry. It is about food and it is about farming. That's where the heart of it is. But it's there's many opportunities available also in agriculture to the next generation. Can you talk about some of the careers, science-based careers that are available here?
Well, there's the way we grow farming today is so much different. You know, it's not about driving a tractor in a facility like this. It's all the way from computerization to systems to mechanization of how equipment works to having a grower to figure out what should the humidity be, what should the temperature be, what do I need to do now, to people that deal with the bug situations, the disease issues. All the way from the construction phase to the sales end of it. I mean, there is so many different facets in this business.
Marketing and sales.
My daughter is just finished school and she's going to join the company in September. And the first thing I'm going to do is get her to work in every different facet of the business. And it's a huge going to be a big learning curve for her, and at the end of the day, when she's done, it'll take her about 2.5 years to make it through, 2 months in every different department, and she'll have a good overview. Is this something I want to do? And if she doesn't have the passion for it, then maybe she should find something that she does want a passion for it. But I believe it's a great business. I mean, I love it, obviously, and I think it's not for everyone, but it certainly is. If it's a passion of yourself, I would follow a career, do something you love.
And we're all connected to agriculture. I love when I ask kids the question of who's connected to agriculture, and no one raises their hand, and I say, well, do you all eat? And they say yes. And I said, then we're all connected to agriculture, and I think we forget that sometimes. So can I take one of these tomatoes and eat it?
Why, of course you could.
Thank you, Casey, and thank you, Ventura County. My favorite food is tomato, cheese, and bread.
So here's an example of a city boy. Grew up in downtown LA, in Watts.
No, that's Inglewood.
Where'd you grow up?
Has to be.
Oh, that's a city.
Yeah.
I love this.
It's too hot there.
Yeah, it is. It's not good for summer.
And you're always interested in agriculture?
My family was, my grandparents and that side of the family was in agriculture.
Oh.
And my father, I think they had enough. My father worked for like JPL, NASA.
Oh.
And he's all about computers and space programming and all that stuff.
So it just skipped a generation.
It skipped a generation.
But I guess if you go back far enough, it used to be like 90% of the population used to work on farms.
Yep.
Back to the old days.
Well, old days, not that long ago. Even 100 years ago. Turn of the century.
Yeah.
Turn of the century was still like that. Probably 70% was still in.
Isn't that amazing how things have changed in just 100 years? It's scary.
Well, but yeah, the world has changed more in the last 100 years than it has in
The last 1,000.
Sure, thousands, really, when you think about it.
You coming around?
See, when you're outside, they just got to move some tomatoes around in order to get, in this case, 13 pounds per box. We don't want to overpack too much, and we don't want to undersell either. So that's how that works. What it does is it takes a picture of the tomatoes in the box and then it puts the labels on it, right?
Taking pictures of every box. We do that also at Ventura. They have the sunset.
Yeah.